You're safe. You've made it. Take a deep breath and let it go. Breathe out everything that's holding you back. Feel the lightness as you follow the beacon of guiding light. Let your baggage go at our door and prepare to step into your fullest potential. Welcome to the Magic Lighthouse with Koncz. Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm super excited to have on Lisset King. She's a trainer of Neuro Linguistic Programming and a master practitioner of hypnotherapy and a mental and emotional release and Huna practitioner. You can also consider her an emotional ninja. Thank you so much for being here, Lisset. I'm so excited to talk to you. You are a wealth of knowledge and I'm just stoked.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor.
Thank you. Yay. So we just had your wife on the show, Brittany. If
hmm
you have heard, if you have been around in the podcast, a couple episodes ago, we talked about pleasure and self-love and just so much juiciness. And I love that. I think you're our first couple that I've interviewed. No, you're our second couple. I have another, Leah and Michael. You know them.
Yes, I love them.
They were my
Yeah.
first ever podcast episodes. But since then, I had 3 years later, I haven't had like a couple on.
Oh.
So it's really cool to have you guys here. So what's it like being you guys? Like you two, married and just amazing. Emotional ninja
Oh,
with a self-love expert. Like, come on.
yeah. Yeah, with a pleasure priestess. It's well, I would say there's never a dull moment in our house. Like there's always some growth or some sort of reflection, something's going on. Like for example, yesterday we there was a breathwork ceremony at my house, and then Brittany had a client over and was doing her pleasure priestessing, and I'll have my calls. They just go from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m., like my 1 day sessions. So there's always some sort of growth and expansion going on. And I have a firm belief that when one of us grows, we all grow. So it's just like on steroids living with that woman. It's fantastic. It's really is my dream. I've always wanted to be with a partner that met me in there, that had the strong desire to be their best selves as much as I did, because I can be a bit of a like seminar junkie, growth junkie, and it's wonderful to be with someone who's like always supportive of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can relate to being a seminar junkie myself. And I think it is so important that if you love personal development, if you love spiritual development, that you have a partner that also loves it too, because you can kind of go down that path of like self judgment of like, oh, maybe your partner's not into that and they think it's nerdy or they think it's boring. I don't know. Like, it's hard to stay in a partnership with someone else that doesn't have any interest in that world. So it's really awesome that you found a partner that is so into that world and is a coach and a leader in that world. And so are you. So congratulations. Like, do you have any tips? I know we weren't going to talk about relationships, but do you have any tips on like, how do you find that match? How do you find that partnership?
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great question. I think the first things first is there's typically an amount of baggage that builds up throughout your relationship like cycle and as you're dating people. And I'm a firm believer that everything's for you. If you find someone and they light you up and there's like major red flags, it doesn't mean you need to necessarily stay with them, but you need to see what is that in them that might be needing healing in you. And so for me, it's like it always starts with the self healing, the first that inward journey of like, why am I attracting people that check out after 3 months, or why am I, um, with someone who is like super clingy and all over me, and what do I do about that? And where am I not meeting them in my intimacy? So I've taken every relationship I've ever had as feedback so that I can be the person I want to be with my partner. And when things weren't going well, what I would do is reflect, review, and set new standards and go, who do I want to be in this relationship? How do I want to show up? How do I want someone to make me feel, and start making people feel that way? So that was the start. When Brittany and I first started dating, we still are polyamorous. However, I was very actively polyamorous. And so I was dating 4 other people at the time. And I loved them. I loved them all. Like, it was really magnificent. And Brittany came in and she was what's known as a game changer. Like, I didn't know it could be that good. And because I had had so many partners at the time, that I was constantly reflecting, like, it was, you want some good personal development work, try dating several people at the same time. It can be very confronting. And as I was doing my own work, and things started to fall apart with, like, my nesting partner, I was going, man, this new relationship is all the things I've wanted, and I don't want to just let this thing go. So how do I work on this thing that I have over here? And one of the things was actually just knowing when something is over, and being okay and being willing to let something go when it's like, hey, if it didn't get any better than this, would you want this to be the rest of your life? And that was a tough question to answer. And I've maintained a lot of friendships with people that I've been with, and some haven't, and that's okay. Like, I love them all for how I have grown and how I've been, and hope that I have affected them in a positive way. So when I met her, it was something. There was something so powerful and magnificent about her. Like, when I wanted to do something, when I wanted to take something on, like, say, sobriety, she was like, okay, I'll do that with you, or, when I'm like, how about we just stop working for anyone else and go cross country and do a honeymoon? And she's like, okay, that sounds like a great idea. Or how about we get married today? And she was like, yeah, I'd marry you today. So it's just been so fun to have someone in my life who is a producer, and she produces my ideas, my, like, big crazy visions. She has a way of, like, executing them. Even our podcast came from that. Like, we're like, we have so much fun together, and people always call us and they want to talk to both of us when they're going through something, because we both give such different perspectives. And I was like, we should start a podcast. And, like, before you know it, microphones are showing up at the house, and like everything is underway. So she's just been this fantastic partnership of I'm living inside of my dream life with her.
So beautiful. That's right. I forgot that she was a producer. Like, she worked at BuzzFeed for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And she's been through a whole, journey of things, I'm sure, but that's really cool and inspiring. And I see a lot of similarities with my husband too. Like, we met at a seminar company, and he's also, always looking at growth and things. And he's the one who's helped me with my podcast and with my projects. Like, I want to start a YouTube channel, I want to start the podcast, and he helped me, like, research and find a microphone. Not the microphone I'm using, because the other microphone, like, it's too complicated for me, and we need a switchboard, and I just need something to plug and play. But when he is around, like, he's working right now, when he is here, he does help me with a lot of things too. So it's really nice to have this supportive partnership. So, and that's like, easing into the next subject, it's really important to have a good foundation and having a solid partnership. If you are into partnerships and marriages and whatnot, it is nice to have that, because you need a stable foundation and stable home life to take on being a leader, being a trainer, being a spiritual coach, being a, whatever, anything in life. It's good to have that balance. So inside of being like, what is neuro linguistic programming? What is hypnotherapy? Like, there's, in a nutshell, we can give a little overview for those of you who don't know. And then to share with us, what do you do as an emotional ninja?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very dynamic question, because it is so many things. Like, neuro-linguistic programming is just a language to understand what's already occurring. So what's already occurring in your unconscious mind, what's already occurring with the way you speak, not only the language you use with others, but the language you speak to yourself. and understanding that how we speak to ourselves in the linguistics is the coding for our subconscious mind or unconscious mind. We use those interchangeably. The reason we use the word unconscious is because we don't believe that that mind is below the conscious mind. It's just as important and bigger. It just doesn't have necessarily the same active awareness that we have when we, take action from a focused place. Like, it's what breathes for you. Your unconscious mind breathes for you. It pumps your blood. It keeps you alive. And its main objective is to keep you alive. And it's doing that using the mechanisms that we have put in place through habits throughout our lives. And the habits that we formed sometimes can be detrimental. They can be disempowering. And my job is to get in there, find out how you're talking to yourself, how you're being with yourself, and get that conscious mind and unconscious mind in order. How do we have a user manual of how to use your unconscious mind, and how do we use it with purpose and direction so you can actually create what you want to create and enjoy your life.
Well, that sounds like something I'm very interested in.
Yeah. It's my life's work of being a seminar junkie. As you and I know, we met in a growth work environment, and this was the thing of all the work that I've ever done, has been the most effective with creating change. Like, first of all, instant change, a change that can happen in a day's worth of work, massively changing and releasing limiting beliefs, releasing anger, sadness, fear, guilt, and shame from your past, energetically healing, clearing you out on the spiritual, mental, emotional level. And when I went through it, I was like, holy shit. It was like I put down something heavy. We can cuss on this show, right? Okay, cool. It's like we can finally, it felt like I put down something heavy. So I felt so much lighter. And from that space, I was able to take action. That's how I turned this career into something, a healing art. I was able to make it lucrative, was letting go of my baggage, letting go of my smallness, all these conflicting beliefs of how can I help people and make money? Like, those were conflicting beliefs. And if your unconscious mind is conflicted with your conscious mind, you won't be able to circle that square. Can't get them going in the same direction.
Yep. I can relate to that. I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially the ones who are, trying to become healers and coaches and practitioners. And there's this like cognitive dissonance with, I want to make a difference and make lots of money and travel and help heal the world and raise the vibration of the planet, but money is evil and bad and greedy people. I don't want to look like a greedy person. What if I give my prices and people say it's too expensive and I have to lower it because I care about them?
Yeah, that's a very real thing. Those are all things that I've gotten to resolve within myself. Is there's so many people out there doing what they love, and is what inspires them, and they're being paid for it, and they get to not only do it for themselves, but they get to do it on a bigger scale. If I wasn't able to be lucrative, I wouldn't be able to continue my skills. I wouldn't be able to stay educated. I go to Hawaii twice a year to master my energy work, my Hawaiian shamanism energy work that I also incorporate into my work. And for me, how do I help those that want to help? That's how I leverage my help in the planet. And there's something to be said about an investment. When you make an investment in yourself and people follow their money. And as you're a practitioner, you've had to invest to get your skills. And so there's an investment to grow and expand. And I'm not just talking monetarily, like time-wise, I've been up since 6 a.m. I've been sharpening my craft, doing my work so that I could be the best one for other people. And if I was sitting around like I used to, just complaining about the way things are, I wasn't getting very far like that. And I had a limiting belief. I'll share I had a belief that there wasn't enough for me. Like I felt like the universe, there was enough, but there wasn't enough for me. And that came from some baby trauma as a little kid. You know, my dad couldn't take me to Disneyland, but he took my brother, and he's like, well, I can't take you. And my little unconscious brain, when I was like in theta, was like, oh, well, then there's not enough for me. And that was the belief that was holding me between thinking that there's only a certain amount of clients, or there's an abundance of clients. There's so many people out there that need this work. There's so many people out there that want to, the only thing that's keeping them between where they are and doing the thing that makes the biggest difference in the world is that one limiting belief. And when you remove that, there's this freedom that, you know, it's what got me to my first 6 figures in my company. And it's what I continue to build on.
Wow. Yeah. It's funny how such a small incident in our childhood really determines the path of our lives if we don't have anything to, you know, find it on the way. Like most people, lots of people in the world don't have the opportunity and privilege to do this healing work, inner work on ourselves. One, I'm super grateful that I get to be exposed to all of these kinds of healing modalities and meet people like you. And for the people who are curious about neuro linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, like what are ways that they can learn more, or, you know, start with maybe some free tools and resources until they can like get to the point where they can
absolutely
pay or invest in it. What are your...
Definitely. So I'll start with my offerings. You know, for one, I've started recording hypnosis tracks. They'll be up on my website for the end of the week, and I'm doing like a free hypnosis track for, you know, just, are you interested? Here's a little something, and you could sit with that for 30 days. And the thing is when we're in theta, when we're in a real that open state of our mind, that's when the seeds can get planted. You know. And with the hypnosis tracks, if you do it for 30 days, before you know it, you're thinking in that way. You're thinking everything works out for me, and it always will. And your reticular activating system turns on, the part of your brain that recognizes patterns, and it goes, oh, look, that worked out for me. That was really easy. Or, you know, man, I really am abundant, and I am making a difference in people's lives, you know, or depending on which one. I have one for health, relationship, spirituality. Sorry, I don't have spirituality yet. For health, relationship, career, and money, because we all need to get that bag so we can work on ourselves. So that's available. That will be available on my website, lissetking.com. If you can include that in the show notes, that'd be wonderful. Yes, and so there's that. NLP is so available. Like that's the other thing, is that it is everywhere. It's how we speak to each other. The best politicians in the world are using it. You know, actually, everyone's using it. The news is very hypnotic. It's not used for the greatest good. You know, it's like a knife can cut your food, or it could kill someone. Like knowing neuro linguistic programming is understanding patterns and then ways to speak so that you can get into your unconscious mind and influence people. And everyone's influencing you. Everything's influencing you. Whatever you're doom scrolling on, you have taught your algorithm what information to give you. And so if you're looking at a certain kind of thing and you're thinking this is what the world is like, it's like, no, that's what your world is like. It's only feeding back to you that which you're expecting to see. And so it is everywhere. It's super available. There's a lot of YouTube videos about it. The school that I learned from is NLP.com. You know, I'm a firm believer in them. I think they're just an incredibly integrous company. They've given me so much. They offer a scholarship program to learn how to be a practitioner of NLP. So you get to do a class that, when I did it in 2013, was a $5,000 class. They do it for $200. So that's something that is magnificent, and I highly recommend them if you want to what is it called? I have a referral code. If you want, you can do that class for $100. Y'all can just email me through my site or find me at Lisset Rocks, and I'll be happy to share that with anyone, because it's just something I believe in. And the more we all know it, the more we understand how our mind works, the better control we can have over it.
That's so powerful.
I like to say, yeah, I like to say, and I'd gotten this from a colleague of mine. She described the conscious mind as an ant. And it's an ant that like is so determined and it wants to get somewhere. And you're like, this is the year I'm going to lose that weight, or this is the year I'm going to get a partner, or this is the year I'm going to make that money. And it is marching full speed toward that goal. But your unconscious mind is like an elephant, and your ant is marching on the back of the elephant. Now, if the elephant's going that way, it doesn't matter how fast you march in that direction. So it's so imperative that we get to understand how our unconscious mind works and get those guys going in the same direction, get them speaking to each other so you can get there faster.
I've never heard that ant metaphor. I've heard the plane, the airplane, the subconscious is the plane and the pilot's the conscious. I've literally never, like that never made sense to me. But the ant walking on the back of an elephant makes so much freaking sense. I get the visual. I get that an ant is walking, and no matter how much it's walking, no matter how many emails, no matter how many courses it's taking, no matter how many, how many hours they're working, the elephant is going backwards. It's going to some other place that the ant wants to go, and you're never going to make it. So that just like the visual makes so much sense. If you guys need to rewind this part and just like go back to when Lisette was talking about this metaphor, wow, I've never heard that before. If anything, this is like the gold of this episode so far. Like that is so good.
Thank you. Yeah, when I first heard that, I was like, holy shit, you have explained it. Because it's exactly that. Like, this is the year I'm going to make money. But if your elephant is like, but then you're going to be greedy. And people are going to think you're greedy, and you like to be liked. We need to be liked. It's going to march full speed in the other direction. And its job is to protect you. Its job is to keep you alive and keep you safe. And if people don't like you, that's like the ultimate fear, like, getting kicked out of the herd.
Yep, getting kicked out of the herd, fend for yourself in the cold and starve to death. No, we got to be liked so people give us things. So how do you get the elephant to turn around to go in the direction you want it to go? Sign up for NLP.
Fantastic. Yes, well, that's what I do. When I say emotional ninja, that's what I do. It's a day-long process. It's not for the faint of heart. It's half of it is digging into your detailed personal history, talking about all of your wounds, like talking about how you got here and seeing how you've been the co-creator of weaving your life. You aren't where you are in a vacuum. And maybe it's been a series of unfortunate events. However, there's usually a first event that we create an idea about ourselves, others, or the world. And then our life our little child with their reticular activating system, they put on the lens of I'm not safe, or the world is harsh, or I have to work hard. Daddy worked hard and I never got to see him just to survive. And we have to find those things and see how it activated your mind to create those patterns over and over again. So you get to take ownership. You get to go, oh, that's how I've wired that elephant to go in that direction. And then there's a part, I think what makes my work the most special is that there's actually release work. There's an opportunity, there's a way to blow out the baggage in a profound, instant way. And all you need to do is be willing to let it go. And your unconscious mind needs to be willing to let it go. And it wants to. It's just as tired of your shit as you are. So when you get those things in alignment and you let go of the anger, the sadness, the fear, guilt, shame, and that limiting belief, whatever that root cause is, that greater problem that keeps reflecting in your body, when you pull that out, the sky's the limit. You have to take action. You have to go, like, I like to say it's not one and done, because releasing baggage is only the first requisite of change. Like you have to release baggage, and not a lot of things allow us to release baggage. Somatic work allows us to release baggage. Breath work, sitting in, psychedelic medicines, sitting in those ways, they allow us to release baggage. However, with this, it's a cognitive process and it's an energetic process. So there's less, the releasing is the easiest part. People don't believe it until they've gone through it. And then they're like, holy, you can actually that's what that space feels like. That's what it feels like when I can breathe, when I don't have that tension from that belief holding on to me. So release work is the first step to change. The second one is you've got to have a compelling future. You have to know where you're going, and that doesn't mean like a super specific, it helps if you're specific, but it doesn't have to be like, I like to say, God's plan is bigger than yours, and God is the grand organized design of it all. There's a way that we fit into all of it. And when we set our GPS to go in a direction, we're more likely to get there. You can't, go into the GPS and say not home. It'll take you anywhere. However, if you set a direction and you have somewhere to go, then you can take action toward going there. And you got to focus and you've got to take action. And that's the thing. I haven't figured out how to take action for people or focus for them. The day I do, my prices will 10x. However, I can help you get that first step of releasing baggage. That's, for me, that was everything.
Yeah, it's priceless to be able to just let go of all of the things weighing you down, and then it just releases so much to let you run full steam ahead. Let's talk about Huna and the energy work that you do with Huna and the Hawaiian shamanism and all of that.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. It's something so near and dear to my heart. Like, this energy work has come into my life in such a magnificent way that you ever land somewhere and you're like, holy shit, this is my path. This is the thing I'm meant to do. And when I went to Hawaii for the first time and felt like my connection to the elements, the water, air, fire, earth, and ether, that we use the Hawaiian words to describe them, but to recognize them in my body as well as outside, and knowing that I can use those elements within myself and within my clients to move the baggage, to burn the baggage, to set it free, to shake it loose, to blow it away, to bring in wisdom using the air, to pull it out of your feet, through the earth element. There's ways to move energy that once I discovered how to do it, I was like, why have I ever been doing anything else? And that's the evolution of things. You don't know something until you've done it. And since learning the Hawaiian shamanism, the school that I learned from, it's 29 generations of unbroken lineage. There was a time when colonizers went out there and they wanted to do away with the old ways, and it went underground. And because of the teachings getting passed on by word of mouth while all of that was going on, it was able to come back up. And that my teachers, my kumus, as we call them, our teachers, were able to pass that information and make it more widespread and wide known. And the aloha spirit, to come from love and integrity, is something that I highly value. And once I started using that in my work, my release work went from taking an hour and a half to 2 hours to 30 minutes. It's like, I give people the option. I'm like, do you want the cognitive process where you kind of, I'll take you through your timeline and you'll gain the wisdom and you'll let things go? Or do you want me to kind of blast it out of you? It's 20 minutes, 2 hours, 20 minutes. 99.9% of the people choose the 20 minutes, and it's such a deep learning. I would be amiss to attempt to explain something so vast and so rich. It's like explaining what it means to feel what nature feels like, you know, or the first time you go into a forest, or the first time you see a volcano. You know, it's just like it's so difficult to explain. It's something that needs to be experienced, and it's forever changed me.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn about Huna?
The school that I learned from, they have two schools. They have two schools under one umbrella, and one avenue of this is the Neuro Linguistic Programming, and it is very cognitive. It's very left brain, and then there's the Huna aspect, and I like to call it adult Hogwarts. You know, we go to Hawaii twice a year, and we get to play. We literally play with fire. We play with the elements, and we work on moving them, and we work on calling in energy and using it to create, manifest, heal. You know, the elements were there to heal. They believed that when baggage came up, that was to be celebrated, because it meant you were ready to heal that thing. So it's changed my entire perspective of what it feels like to feel triggered or activated. If I'm triggered or activated, I'm like, whoa, this is something inside of me that needs to be healed. And I avoided the Huna avenue for a while. Like when I first dove in, I thought it was cool, and also I wasn't quite ready to commit to it, because it was so outside of my understanding and knowing, you know. And when I finally did choose in, it was just, I was like, it's like finding out there's a magic school that you can go to.
It's incredible. And I'm sure you had to be ready too, like whatever that means for people. Like their soul has to be ready. You have to be ready mentally, physically, emotionally, in so many ways. So it's really powerful. What's one of the craziest things that's happened during a class, or during when you go to Hawaii for your trips? Like if you share with us, I would love to know if there's any crazy stories that happened.
The
fire jumped out at you, and an ancestor walked through the air. I don't know.
Well, I would say it was super simple, but for me it was mind-blowing. And there was a day when they were like, would you like to see energy and practice seeing energy? And we sat in this classroom, and for the first time ever, I saw the cords between me and other people. And I was able to read auras, and I'd never seen them before. And like all of a sudden, it was just like someone just like squeaked my eyes clean, and now I can see energy. And that, I think, was the most profound thing. There's definitely been crazier things that have happened. However, that was the day that I was like, oh, this is something special. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. And then you start to see it everywhere. You're like, oh, well, that tree's really got, you know, you're all of a sudden you're reading the stories between the trees, or feeling the connection with spirit, you know, with the ancestors. We practice chanting, and there's been times where, you know, I was taught that if you practice chanting long enough, you can feel the ancestors in your chant. And one day I felt that. I was like, oh, that wasn't only my voice in the room. So there's so much, you know. I've had my teacher connect me to the energetic web that ties us all together, can be accessed at all points. Like there is no space and time, there is no separation. So anything you've ever experienced can be touched and accessed again. And, you know, I had my teacher say, hey, would y'all like to feel how the ground feels in Alaska? And all of a sudden my toes started turning cold. And I'm like, I've done a lot of drugs. I've done a lot of psychedelics, and I was completely sober when that happened. And I was like, I guess this is what the ground feels like in Alaska, because my toes are feeling nipply right now. So things like that are some, you know, and that is not something I can personally do yet. However, the possibility and the capability of understanding that concept, my life has been unfolding into how do I practice that more? And with my clients, I'm constantly sending energy, and I think they are the most miraculous thing happens in a session when I see someone who believed something this morning, believed they were not worthy or they didn't belong, or they're not lovable, to the end of the day going, I didn't fucking say that. I'm so lovable. Are you kidding? Have you seen me? Like just watching their entire transformation, I'm like, that's the magic.
So magical. Speaking of your clients, like that is a huge accomplishment in itself. And can you share a little bit about some of your clients' accomplishments, say, a month after they work with you or a year after they work with you?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So, I'm really big on client confidentiality because, I'm technically a therapist, and I can share some wins from those that have given me permission to. And I had a client who I just like, they walked in with this, I can never love anyone. And I'm probably going to end up marrying someone for money or something, like the old standard. And they were very miserable in that aspect of their life. We did a breakthrough, and 2 months later, she met her husband. And they are the cutest couple. Like when they come over or visit, or we're in a group, people are like, how are they that in love? I was like, I know. In my head, I'm like, you should work with me. I'll show you. And once that belief was gone, once that core wound was gone, she was able to claim love for herself and see that like it was possible. But if that's the belief, if that's what's being modeled to you, that love is hard or marriage is hard, or any unworthiness is coming from it, or I can't have it all. I hear that one a lot. Like, oh no, there's like, you gotta choose one or the other. I know that one because I've played with that one myself. And once you know this work, you can't have a belief like that run rampant anymore. You're like, well, I know that's not serving me, so I can let that go. So that was a big one. I've seen people double their income. I've seen people lose weight, like lose 30 pounds and keep it off when they've been yo-yoing their whole life. So that is something powerful. Or lose 15 pounds, release. I like to use release because you find anything you lose. Release 15 pounds like within a month of working together. Like, so there's tangible results all over the place. And I get to, because it is very much it's a bullet train to healing. In one day you can let go of so much. I see the difference in a day. And the greatest impact is when I look at a client I had 3 years ago, and she's still with the same partner, when before that, she didn't think she could find love either, and it's just, it echoes through time and space.
It's so powerful. Really good. As I'm listening, and since we've started our conversation, yeah, I can feel the healing energy that you just radiate. I'm like over here, like I feel it. So I can imagine what it's like to actually go through the breakthrough experience with you, through the energy healing and the NLP and whatnot. And I've known you for many, many years too, so I can even just like say who you are is such a beautiful and powerful person. But the healing work that you do is just, it's very special, and I'm really grateful that you're doing it. I know that all your clients are grateful that you're doing it, and you're doing such a beautiful service to the world, doing God's work, bringing healing to the planet. So on behalf of everyone in the world, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah, right. It totally is. Do you have any tips for spiritual entrepreneurs?
So, yes, what I would say is, if you've been called to do something, only you can do it the way you've been called to do it. There's many practitioners of neuro linguistic programming. My mentor is just someone who I admire and respect, and like no one can do it like him. And I don't try to be like him. I'm Lisset. I'm the one that can offer it to the type of people I can offer it to. I've been through, I have a sexual trauma from my childhood, from my adulthood. There are ways in which I can resonate with people to help them let that go, that I know is my special flavor and my special brand. And so if you're called to do something, you like do it. It doesn't matter who, like, do not Google other people doing it. Just do it for yourself and do it your own way, and another thing about that is just like start now, because I first learned about NLP 10 years ago, and I started doing it 5 years ago, like actively as my business. And it's because I didn't like the first person that I learned it from. The second, when I found this school, the NLP.com people, like when I found them, I was like, oh, these people have this level of integrity that I honor and respect. And when I started doing it, now I have 5 years under my belt, now I've got 92 breakthroughs under my belt. I've done this I've done this consistently, and you can only get better by starting, and you can only get better by doing it. And for the spiritual entrepreneurs, the business foundation part is important. And I know it's a part we avoid. I avoided it for several years.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do the LLC, and I didn't want to do the bank account, and I didn't want to do my books. And I was just like, oh, can't I just like meditate my way into my clients coming? And yes, to some degree. However, like to have the maximum growth, you have to have a solid foundation. You can't build on sand. And actually sitting down and finding mentors that were doing what I do. Like, again, it's okay to find mentors that are doing it. Like, no reason to start fresh and try to do it all on your own. There's tons of people who have done it. So there are models that you can follow. So follow other people's models, but a solid foundation is important. There is a business aspect, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur about it. Like, if you want this to be your business, it can absolutely be a successful business. And authenticity is everything. Be you.
Very wise indeed. It's so true, everything that you're saying, because I can see myself in all those tips. Like, you gotta set that foundation. Just if you have this desire to make a difference, especially as a spiritual entrepreneur, say that 5 times fast.
As a spiritual entrepreneur, yeah.
Just start, and there's going to be like Reiki practitioners are a dime a dozen these days, which is a good thing, because the vision is like that it's going to be as common as Advil, and like one of the biggest things I treat are headaches, like, and usually I bring them down within a few minutes for anyone that I work with. So I'm glad that it's so available, and I want to have it be more and more available. And I'm the only one that has my own unique flavor. And I have clients that really like working with me, and students who really like working with me. Whereas there are people that are very different than I am, and they attract a completely different set of people as well. So just start. There's someone out there for you. There's someone out there that wants to learn from someone like you, that you only can help them. Only you. So the time is now. No pressure.
Yeah. No pressure, but get on it.
Yes.
When is now the right time to start?
Right? That's so good. And if anyone is having any questions, or they're like, I don't know who to go to about like getting my corporation set up, or my like talking about it. My husband is a tax accountant, and he's a very spiritual person too. He's a shaman. He's like he does so much. But like his main thing, his bread and butter is the tax accountant. He helps people set up corporations. LLCs, all of that. And he also does like business consulting and such. So even just a phone call of like, hey, what do you think I should do? He can help you kind of figure it out. And he has worked with a lot of people, like artists, spiritual people, myself, So just send me an email at the Magic Lighthouse Podcast at gmail.com if you want. Just let me know. We can support you in that. But
thank you for being a resource for that, because I literally would have called him at the beginning of this journey because I felt very lost. I felt really incredibly lost, and thank goodness for YouTube. Thank goodness for ChatGPT. It has become my own personal assistant with, creating a lot of stuff around my work. And also, we need those resources. We need people who know that. And it can be scary, and you don't have to do it alone. So thank you and your husband for being that resource for people.
Yeah, of course. Our pleasure. We have to bring all of our tools together, right? Like I also am a graphic designer, so that's like my tool that I did before Reiki, but I still use it now. So yeah. And I'm sure all of us listening have many different skills and tools and things to bring to the table. So
yeah.
Can you share just like what is a breakthrough session? So I don't think we dove into exactly what that is.
Sure.
Like that's kind of your main way you work with people, right?
Yes. I mentioned it a little bit before, so I'm not sure how far I got. I'm a little, what is it?
You might have said it, but then I might have not gotten it. So
I'll go ahead and condense it. Yeah. So a breakthrough session is an 8-hour therapeutic session. And the first half is a detailed personal history where we dig up the past. We dig up, hi. We dig up what happens at that age. When your son is a sponge, right? At that age, everything's open, everything just comes straight in. So we're digging, where did the root of this problem start? And sometimes it's a thing you don't think is very serious. But for a child, they create this reality, and then that becomes their knowing. That becomes the how they see the world for the rest of their lives. So we pull that information from there and how it has played out throughout your history, throughout your adulthood. And once we know what the root problem is, we know what's keeping you from where you are to where you want to be, we release that baggage. And then we create a compelling future in a direction you want to go in. So in 8 hours, I like to say, you're going to tell your story for the last time. So make it good.
Dang. So how can people get a hold of you? How can they find out how they can work with you and whatnot?
Yeah. So my website is the best way, lissetking.com, lissetking.com. My email is lisette@lissetking.com, and they can email me directly or right on my website. There's a way to do a free consultation. I do an hour-long consultation call, and in that hour-long consultation call, I like to say, you're going to walk away with something. You're going to walk away with something that's going to serve you and help you at least have a greater understanding of where that problem comes from. And if you want to dive in and sit in my chair for, 6 to 8 hours, we can let that thing go. You will not walk away without some sort of awareness or something out of our free consultation. So I invite people to do that. Like, that's one of my offerings, and the other way to reach me is we have a podcast as well. My wife and I, Honest Feedback Podcast, and I will answer questions for free all day long on that. And you can email us at thekings@honestfeedbackpodcast.com. Ask us a question, and we'll both give you our take on that question. It's what we love to do, is share and help people grow.
I love it. It's the Kings with an S?
Yes, it's thekings@honestfeedbackpodcast.com. And you can ask us a one-off question, and we'll give you our best way to answer it, our way to answer it.
I love it. Awesome. Well, we got so much great, juicy content and tips and tools to learn about. I'm so grateful that we got to have this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. And everyone, go to Lissette's website, take advantage of the opportunity to just even have a conversation. You don't have to, book right then and there, but highly encouraged to do so. Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.